friends, we're going to talk about chair pose today, otherwise known as Utkatasana. Something that you should go over anytime that you have a mirror available, or in this case you can see yourself in a video setting, which pretty much everyone can do these days. 3 common mistakes. See if we can make sure that we're not making them. The most common one would be to see the vision of someone whose knees suddenly start going way ahead of their toes. And you can see this, and very rarely do you actually see this with a neutral spine, although sometimes you do. So the real way to get this going in a method that is advantageous to your knees, I'll show you from this angle. The real way to get this going is to avoid the situation of getukt pelvis, because as you start pulling your sit bones and your tailbone forward and tilting your pelvis back, the knees have to compensate somehow. So they have to go forward because you have nothing back here to distribute the weight. So unless there's a back problem that would discourage this, I usually try to get people to think of a little bit of a buddhi asana here, just to start. And then I'll have people put their hands here. So I'm addressing 2 problems in one position because one breeds the other. So if you're familiar with cat-cow, you can do a little cat-cow motion here. And once the inhale, cow, exhale, cat, drawing from the low belly in and up, you'll see the curve of my spine sort of goes straight, a low curve, but it doesn't pop out. So what we want to do is we want to keep neutrality in the low spine. We don't want to start popping out the curve because that's going to cause the issue of the knees going forward. Otherwise I can't balance myself. So let's have anywhere from a natural curve to maybe on an exhale we support the front low spine in and up. Maybe even we connect the ribs from outer to inner. The arms, not really concerned about. I tend to offer arms that are less extended just until at least the person gets this part figured out. Okay, the third mistake that tends to come out is the person who's too buddhi asana'd up. And this isn't as common unless you're dealing with a yoga class full of gymnasts or ex-gymnasts and dancers, or just people who tend to have that body posture. But you'll see a lot of people who aren't using anything in the front of the body, nothing in the deeper core muscles, and they're just all sticking it out. Well, their knees may not suffer as much, but they might be doing too much compression here and not enough support here. So essentially, if we just think about a little cat-cow, the inhale's a little extreme, and then the exhale goes to another extreme. So what if we find the Goldilocks? The inhale, expand out, and the exhale come in. So there's less change in the low back curve, and it's more of a in-between experience rather than 2 extremes, which you can start with because sometimes you have to go extreme to get to your happy medium. And then there's the use of the wall, which everybody has, even if you live in an igloo. The igloos have walls. So the use of the wall is particularly good, not just for making sure that the correct part of your back body is making contact with the wall, but also when you start doing revolved chair, part of it is Utkatasana. So revolved chair is found a lot in classes, and it seems to just be thrown out in even beginner classes, but there's really so much going on. So let's wall this. So on the inhale, it's almost like my sit bones are going to touch the wall. I don't really want that. That might feel good for a moment or two. But what I also don't want is like the top of my pelvis touching the wall. I don't want my low back pushing towards the wall. So let's find the happy medium, which is more like the spaces around the sacrum, pressing the wall, right? Sacrum down here. That's a pretty good spot. And then think about the butt cheek sort of spreading rather than clenching in. And then from here you can sit as low or as high as you want. Now, when you go to twist, we'll start with an upright twist. As you go to twist the chest, the sternum, and the low ribs to your right, the left hip wants to get lighter off the wall and twist with you. You might lean to the right, or you might just twist, and the left leg might do what my left leg is doing now and come out of place and sort of go forward. Now, is this inherently bad? Probably not, if done knowing exactly what you're doing, right? But the tendency is for the twist to get hung up in that curvy little lumbar spine, which is designed for stability, not so much for mobility, and it's got very small degrees of twisting, about 5 or so degrees, depending on the person, right? So from here, I'm going to think of this. I'm going to twist to you, which is to my left. So I'm going to press the right back pocket, my right back half of my pelvis, into the wall where the sacrum is. I'm going to press that into the wall, and the way I do this is I really ground my right foot. That's going to help press it in. I'm grounding my left foot too, but the right foot I'm really focusing on, because as I exhale and I hollow and I get a little bit of that cat motion, I'm going to twist towards you. Hello. And now if I'm really grounding in to both feet pretty equally, my knees are fairly flush, I feel my belly drawing back, and most of that twist is happening in the lower ribs and to the sternum. Now I'm twisting to the left. If I inhale really mindfully into the right lung, I feel this little stretch, and then as I exhale, I'm hugging the right belly back, but pulling the ribs more to the left. And I get a little more stretch in the back body. And you can do this as you go lower and lower, and lower, and lower, and lower. You can even initiate the twist from a little bit of a cat pose, not a super charged in the low back, but the upper back can round more. You can take a breath or two here. Take the twist, and then inhale, press into the opposite foot of the side you're twisting to, and then press equally into both feet. The heart pulls through the arms, and you've got more of a heart opener than a twist, right? I mean, you have both. You can be high, you can be low. But what you really want to do is make sure that you can have both pieces of your pelvis, the sacrum, back and flat before you start twisting. Otherwise, it starts to look a lot, and you've probably seen this, and you've probably done it, and I'm sure that I did it in my beginning days. You see a lot of this where people forgot that it's a chair, and they're so concerned about the twist, they forgot about all the other cues, right? They forgot about taking the arm in. They forgot about the heart forward, heart higher than the hips, okay? And if you set yourself into the pose a certain way to start, once you get there, you won't have as many corrections. That's a video for another time. Otherwise, keep working on your chair pose. It's really good for your leg strength, and if you do it right, it's going to be good for your hammy strength too, right? More of this. Not so great on the knees, a little more on the quads here. When you've got more of the sit bones reaching back and wide. Knees, I can see my toes. You want to be able to see your toes when you're doing chair. And I would venture to say any leg support pose. That's a good sign too. Now I get a little bit more of the hammies in, especially if you press your heels into the ground. So it really can be a great all leg exercise. And then if you want to add the inhale, exhale, cat-cow, it becomes a little core work as well. And as you exhale, you're not tucking the tailbone, you're trying to keep everything side and front, drawing in like a little suction cup. And if you take those principles into your chair pose, you should be able to save your knees, protect your back, and get really strong. So thanks for listening. Happy chair.